Hey guys, welcome back to the Witchcraft Shop. So today we're going to be putting a front tire and some new wheel bearings on my '07 Heritage. Time for a new tire. Let's take a look. This one is starting to get that cupping effect on either side, a little high in the center, got that cupping effect. Still got tread on it, but it's time for a new one. Now, something I do on my bikes, I keep my paperwork in a Ziploc baggie in the saddlebag, and I keep one of these little composition books. I get these at Walmart. They're pretty cheap. I keep a little composition book in every bike, and I jot down all the maintenance. And on this one here, I put this tire on at 52,000 miles. Well, today we have 80,900 miles. So that front tire has 28,000 miles on it. That's pretty good wear. This is why I'm running Dunlop Elites. They work real well for me. I get good traction. I get good wear out of them. Of course, I don't get that on a back tire, but I really like these Dunlop Elites. I've been running them for several years now on all my bikes. Something to take a look at when you're buying a new tire, or any tire for that matter. You got an older bike, you want to check it out. So take a look at the numbers here. Let's get a flashlight. So we have our Dunlop, we have our size, but right over here, every tire you're going to see this little oval with 4 digits in it. 20 on this one, it's 2623. This is a date code on when this tire was built. This tire was built in the 26th week of 2023. So you look that up on any bike and you can kind of tell how old them tires were, when they were made. So you're looking to buy a bike, it's got good tread on the tires, but they're looking a little dry rotted, check the date code. It'll tell you a lot about the tire. Some of them have plenty of tread, but they're 20 years old. It's time for a new one. But anyway, we're going to put a tire on it, and then we're going to put wheel bearings. Keep an eye on your wheel bearing. It's important to check your air pressure, and it's important to keep an eye on your wheel bearings. Right in here, and I see this a lot, guys will pressure wash their bike at the car wash, and they get the water in here, and it takes that little seal out, and next thing you know, bearings are showing, bearings are falling out, and you wonder how they're going down the road safely. Bearings are cheap, they're not hard to change, and we're going to show you how to do that. It's just a regular maintenance item, same as doing a tire. So follow along, we'll make a little video and change your front tire and some wheel bearings here. All right, tires off. You know, I hear it all the time. Must be nice to have a tire machine. Well, if you're going to put a lot of miles on your bike, you're going to do maintenance, it's really not that bad. What's a dealership going to cost you? $200 plus the cost of a tire just to change it. Machine like this can be had for $1,000, $1,200. I mean, if you want a nicer one, they go up to $2,000, $3,000. But entry-level unit, you know, $1,000, $1,200. You do your own tires on your own schedule. You know, you have one, your friends are going to know. Maybe do a friend's tire. It'll pay for itself. It's really worth having. It's, you know, it's even cheaper than, you know, buying one of the lifts. So it's just one of them tools. I wish I'd have bought one a lot sooner. Now that I have it, it makes life a whole lot easier. All right, we don't do a tire balancer, but what I do is I put balancing beads. These are just tiny glass beads that we put inside the tire, or in this case, inside the inner tube. And as the thing rotates and bounces down the road, these will even out and self-balance. Even as the tire wears, they'll maintain balance. To get them in the tube, we use a little bottle, we use a hose, and we just kind of coax them down. We're just going to put about 1 ounce of beads in. Back tire, we might do 1.5 ounces. If it's a really big back tire, we might do 2 ounces. But as I say, they're self-balancing. So even if you get too many in there, they will still find their natural balance as the tire goes down the road. And you don't have the ugly, heavy lead weights stuck to your nice, fancy rim. All right, new tires installed. We got it back over here on the rack. We are set up on some 2x4 blocks because we don't want our disc brake rotor getting bent up. You don't want to put pressure on this. So support your rim and tire on a couple blocks, hold it up off the end. We're going to replace these bearings. We have 2 new ones. These come as sealed units. They're non-greasable, they're already greased, they're sealed up, no maintenance to them. This is an 07. We do not have anti-lock brakes on it. If you have a unit, if you have a bike with anti-lock brakes, one of these is going to be a little bit wider and you're going to see a groove on it. And if I'm not mistaken, that groove goes inward. It's got a special sensor in there. So when you're going down the road and that's spinning, your anti-lock brake sensor senses. So if you have a bike with anti-lock brakes, you need special bearings, and they have to go in a certain way. Not a concern on this bike here. Now, one bearing on each side, and then you have a spacer shaft down in here that applies pressure. So when you tighten this down, you have pressure on this inner ring going through that spacer to the other side. Excuse me, going through to the other side. That spacer is very important to keep the proper tension. Otherwise, without that spacer, when you tighten your axle down, you're just going to push these bearing centers out of here. And it's going to wear the bearing out. Now, you can, if the book, as the book shows, you can take a pry bar, push it down in here, wedge it to the side, catch that lip on the edge of the bearing, and go back and forth and hammer that bearing out. I've done it before. It takes a bit of time. It's a pain in the butt. But you can do it that way. Once you hammer the bearing out on the other side, the spacer comes out, flip it over, the other bearing's a whole lot easier then. Your other choice is to buy a bearing puller. These are fairly reasonable. They're not high dollar or anything, and they save you a lot of time. What we have is a little insert here. We have a lip that pushes in and catches the edge of that bearing, and then this little wedge, you put a nut on the end of here, and that wedges this apart to hold that bearing. We put the cup over, tighten the nut, and then that'll pull the whole thing up and out. Whole lot easier. Once you get it to start moving, it goes a whole lot easier. That happens. And there's our old bearing, neatly pulled out, no damage to the rim. And here's that spacer I was telling you about. That touches the inside edge of both bearings, so that when you tighten your axle down and put pressure against there, you're not pushing the centers out of your bearings. Flip it over. Same thing on the other side. Take our bearing puller back apart, pull our old used bearing off, put it back together, do the same thing on the other side. Pop it loose, keep turning. The further you turn it, the more it pulls it out, the easier it's going to get. There you have it. 2 wheel bearings. Neatly, cleanly removed from the rim. No damage to the rim. So this little kit is made specifically for wheel bearings on Harley-Davidsons. That's just one brand. They're all China made. They're cheap. I think this whole kit was maybe 50 bucks. But if you're going to change out wheel bearings, it's pretty handy. To get the new ones back in, we're going to use this threaded rod. And we're going to use a couple of these washers, one on either side, and basically screw it in. I've seen guys take these new bearings, set them in here, and they'll take a socket or something the same size and they hammer them in. I guess it works. Last thing I want to do is be pounding and beating on my new bearings. I'd rather press them in. If you don't have the kit, you don't have a press. I tell you what I've done before is even just a piece of threaded rod with some heavy duty washers is enough to get them bearings in there without pounding on them with a hammer. So let's see about getting these in. We're gonna go ahead and put one side in and seat it. Then we're gonna be sure and put our spacer in, and then we'll do the other side. The nice thing about the kit is these little spacer units that it comes with have a shoulder that fits down in the bearing, and this washer actually will sit down inside, perfect size to sit down in, so you get that bearing seated firmly. Again, don't forget your spacer. Very important. That has to sit on the other bearing. Otherwise, you'll pull the center out of your bearing when you go to mount it. You want to make sure the bearing seats down onto that spacer so the bearing touches the spacer on both sides. Now we have to do is just put it back on the bike. Oh, by the way, bearings can look perfectly good. This one doesn't look too bad. I don't know if the camera will pick this up or not. Yeah, not good. They shouldn't be making noise. That's why it's a good idea to replace them on a regular basis. Now, remember, you always tighten your axle bolt up first to pull the axle over and tension your bearings. Then you tighten these nuts on the fork to pinch it in. If you do this one first, you're going to be pulling them forks together. Always tighten the axle nut first, then tighten these bolts down. We will jack it up, give it a spin, make sure everything works the way it should, spins free, but there you go. There's a tire change and a bearing change on my 07 Heritage. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to click that like and subscribe button down below. It's free, and tune in next time, see what we fix next.